The chairperson has requested that we start the meeting at 10 past 9. So just to let you know. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Matonsi.
Yes, Chairperson, it's 9:10. We do have the department, the IEC, and members in the meeting, so we can start.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matonsi. And good morning to honorable members. Morning, the Minister, Deputy Minister, and the DG, and your entire team of Home Affairs. Morning, the leadership of the Independent Electoral Commission, and also the executive of the IEC, members of staff. Last week, we interacted with the provincial structures of Limpopo and Mpumalanga with the leadership of the Home Affairs to assess the state of readiness in terms of the services they are rendering to our communities and the challenges that we have identified. We have also had an opportunity to also visit the Atlantic office, and we must appreciate the interventions that have been implemented by the department. We'll go back to make sure that all those we've agreed upon, they are being executed. It gives us an opportunity to balance our understanding and our assessment in terms of the work that the department is continuously engaged on, but also collectively to make sure that we respond to the challenges that South Africans have been raising with various stakeholders around the services rendered by Department of Home Affairs. Today, we convened to get an update on the Electoral Amendment Bill. As you know that we're approaching the local government elections either this year or early next year, and must prepare and assist the Independent Electoral Commission to engage in this process. And we hope that the brief that we'll be receiving, and with the addition of the IEC in terms of the time frame and the anticipation for this bill to be concluded, the committee may need to pay more attention to that. We are fully aware that we're also going to receive the update or report on the public hearing that we've conducted over a period of time, and so that the department prepare responses that the members of the communities or stakeholders have raised during the public hearing. So the content advisor will take us through in terms of the issues that are arising from the discussion or conversation we had with the members of the community, various political parties, and also stakeholders, traditional leadership, religious communities, and business around this subject matter. I must raise that a growing concern, which I think all of us, we need to get into the space around the IT environment at the Department of Home Affairs. We are also facilitating a thorough engagement with the stakeholders, in other words, the key officials within that unit, to interface with the department. We'll also draw CETA and also draw the CSIR in relation to the work that we are observing as causing or contributing negatively to the work of the Home Affairs. So we'll be shifting our focus and directly interacting with that, and also the concerns that we are now receiving around the status of the IT environment at Department of Home Affairs. As we engage in that process with the leadership, I think most of the issues will then deal with. We'll receive also the update on the an engaged study tour, which, as you know, that it has failed on 2 occasions, and hope at this time, because we've elevated the matter, but also requested the Independent Electoral Commission to jointly assist the team of Parliament to facilitate this study tour. As you know, we're going to engage on various issues that are related to electoral space. Members will then invite Honorable Mr. Matonsi to introduce the team in attendance and apologies. Then we'll invite the Department of Home Affairs, led by the Minister, to introduce the issues, and then Content Advisor, update, and the other issues that are related on the item. I recognize the hand after apologies. Your hand, Mr. Mokhale. Mr. Matonzi?
Yes, Chairperson, from my side, I've got three apologies. One from Ms. Mohammed, she's off sick, and Ms. Ngobeni, she's outside of the country, and also the Minister of Home Affairs. Those are the only three apologies, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. An apology from the IEC. Is the IEC in attendance, Mr. Matonzi?
Yes, they are in attendance.
Sorry, Chair. Good morning, and good morning to members. Honorable members, I was unable to unmute, but I did. We have an apology from the Vice Chairperson of the Commission. She is assigned to some work outside of our immediate vicinity.
Thank you, Chairperson. All apologies have been noted. Can I now recognize the hand of Honorable Mokhale?
Greetings, Honorable Chair, and greetings to all the colleagues and the IEC and the staff from the DHA. Chairperson, I just wanted to check with you on the agenda here before we proceed, whether we have an item on because what do you call the correspondence. See, we don't have it this time, but we had it last week. And also, Chair, the meeting that we held last week with the provinces, I thought that perhaps we'll also, after we have met with them, also have an engagement so that we have clear recommendations to them in terms of what is it that we would like to see happen in those particular provinces. I thought maybe it will be slotted in somewhere in the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Noted. We don't have, if we that item will arise when there are correspondences that have been brought to our attention. That's why we don't have it on the item agenda. We'll have it in those correspondence which were highlighted in our last meeting when the department is going to respond in our next meeting, which is next week, on all the issues that have been highlighted. The second matter of the provinces, Limpopo and Mpumalanga, we are aware that we still have to engage with the other provinces. But if that is a proposal that we exhaust as province brief the committee and we deal with the recommendations, it's also a correct path which we may need to then develop a report, which an interim report has been developed. We can slaughter that once they deal with that in Menko, Mr. Matonzi, so that we rework our agenda and inform. We'll then come back to the committee and inform committee. I think is a proper. Other than to wait for all provinces, then we deal at once, but we can work on that. Can we then deposit that in Menko, Mr. Matons, and see how we work on that one? The standard one is the response on correspondences. Next week, there will be item on correspondences and response on the issues that have been raised previously to the department, so that we were structured on how we deal with the issues. I'm sure it will assist us, Honorable Mokhale.
No, I agree, Chair. I support that steps that you have just outlined.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mokhale. Members, now that we'll have cleared out the issues, I will then invite the department led by the Deputy Minister to introduce the update After that, we'll have a comment from the chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission. Then we'll invite members to comment on the report. Thank you, Deputy Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to yourself and all the members of the Portfolio Committee. With me, Chair, today I have the Director General, Mr. Tommy Makoto, DDG Mavuso, as well as DDG Sigama, as well as Mr. Siyakoza from the department, as well as Advocate Malakate, that we have dealt with over time on the legal issues. We are here in the main, Chairperson, to present the update in terms of the process for the Electoral Laws Amendment Bill. As you will note that IEC remains an independent institution, but they do channel their work through us. And we are happy to indicate that the IEC gave us a letter on October for them to submit the draft bill in terms of the amendment. They then requested us to then channel the bill through proper channels so that it can go through cabinet and ultimately come back to yourselves. We have made progress in that particular regard. I will then request that DG as well as Mr. Malakate then lead the presentation in terms of the progress and how far we've gone in processing of this bill. We understand the agency surrounding this particular bill as we are building up towards local government elections. I will then hand over to them through you, Chair, with your indulgence, that they then take us through the presentation. It is a brief presentation, Chair.
Thank you, DM. DJ.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, DM, members of the IEC led by the Chair, Tate Mwepa. Chairperson Advocate Malakate will take us through the presentation, but as it does that, there's one outstanding matter that we wish to register with the committee. So firstly is to state that we now have an opinion as part of the process from the state law advisors that has granted us an approval to move forward with this piece of legislation. What is outstanding is work that is done in the presidency as part of the socio-economic impact assessment, which we have submitted, and they are continuing to engage with the IEC and ourselves on whatever information that is outstanding. I think if you look at the critical path of the IEC towards the local government elections, these are some of the things that we need to attend to ASAP so that the IEC is then able to discharge its mandate. So without any waste of time, Chair, if I can then invite Advocate Malakate to take you through the presentation.
Thank you, DG. Advocate Malakate.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to Chair and honorable members. Good morning to the Deputy Minister for the Department of Home Affairs as well as the Director General. My greetings also to the Chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission, Mr. Muyapja, and the colleagues from the IEC, as well as all the people present in here. Chair, if I could just ask Mr. Matonsi to flight the presentation, and if we can also then move to slide number 6. I'm moving to slide number 6, Chair, given that the Deputy Minister as well as the Director General has dealt with the
Advocate, okay, well, the presentation is on, sorry. Yeah, thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I am moving to slide number 6, given that the Deputy Minister as well as the Director General has already indicated that where we are. Just safe to indicate and to reiterate that we did receive the letter from the Commission together with the draft bill. wherein the commission was requesting the minister to process the bill with a view to introduce the bill into parliament so that parliament can then deal with that. So on receipt of that, the ministry then submitted the bill together with a letter to the department, to the office of the DG, and then that was then submitted to the Chief Directorate Legal Services with the instruction to assist the minister in dealing with the request from the commission, which is to facilitate the passage of this legislation and to ensure that it is then introduced into Parliament. In the next slide, Chair, we just indicating that from then onwards, on the 14th of November 2025, we then requested a preliminary certification opinion from the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor, Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. And this is a prerequisite for us to table the draft bill through the JCPS cluster up to en route to Cabinet, to request Cabinet to approve the introduction of the bill into Parliament. So on the 8th of December last year, the Oxlade then came back with a provisional legal opinion and requested the department, together with the IEC, to provide clarity on two issues. The first issue relates to the procedural matters relating to the processing of legislation. Primarily, here the Oxlade was concerned that it appears that the bill has not been subjected to public participation processes as it is required in terms of the development of developing processes of legislation. And we then responded to that. The second point that they have raised was to say that it appears that there may have not been any consultation with stakeholders, and in particular political parties, in that the bill affects the work of political parties. We responded by letter to Oxlade on the two issues and clarified the issues. One, that we indicated that we are of the view that given the agency of the legislation, as well as the fact that it is more technical in nature, that we are of the view that the public participation process that will be engaged in at the level of Parliament will be sufficient to deal with the issue that they are raising. Secondly, we did indicate to them that there is a structure within the IEC where all political parties are represented, and that this bill was then tabled with that structure, and that structure had a view and provided its support of the bill, and they understood where we are. And then they provided us on the 27th of January this year with the requisite preliminary certification opinion. In essence, they are of the view that the bill, together with the memorandum on the objects of the bill, they are in order and are not in conflict with any provision. Safe to indicate that they then reiterated the fact that given that the department, together with the IEC, will be tabling this bill to Cabinet to seek Cabinet approval to introduce the bill, that once Cabinet has approved the bill for the introduction into Parliament, the final version of the bill, together with the memorandum, must be submitted to Oxlade, so that Oxlade can then provide us with the final certification and issue that certificate, which is also a prerequisite for the minister to introduce the bill into Parliament. So in the next slide, we just reiterating, Chair, that which the Director General has indicated, again to indicate that the SIA certificate, the preliminary certificate, it's also a prerequisite for us to table the bill into the JCPS clusters. And in fact, when at the level of cabinet would want us to indicate that we have complied with the two requirements and that we are in possession of this socio-economic impact assessment system report. We have submitted same, and we are engaging with DPME, but we are still awaiting the same. So once the CS certificate is at hand, we will then proceed to table the bill together with the cabinet memorandum to the JCPS cluster and to cabinet to request cabinet to approve the introduction of the bill. In the next two slides, Chair, we are just indicating the time frames. But we hasten to indicate, which is in red, that because the department is required to be in possession of both the preliminary certification opinion as well as the CS report in tabling the bill in the JCPS cluster, we're just reiterating that there is a dependency that we cannot table the bill if we are not in possession of those two documents. So what we anticipate doing is that as soon as we get the CS report or an indication that the CS report will be issued perhaps in the next week or so, we'll then be approaching the JCPS cluster, starting with the development committee. And then from the development committee, once we obtain support and approval, the bill will then be tabled with the JCPS Director Generals, and thereafter the JCPS ministers, as well as the cabinet committee, and the final structure will then be cabinet. And we will then, once we obtain cabinet approval to introduce, we'll then request the minister to approve and sign the necessary letters directed to the speaker as well as the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, and we will then introduce the bill. In the next two slides, Chair, we are just recommending that the Portfolio Committee takes note of the process and progress that have been made in processing the draft bill, but also take note of the envisaged steps that we will undertake to facilitate cabinet approval to introduce the draft bill into Parliament. We thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Advocate Malekate. Members, this is the update on the already engaged process, and I will invite you to comment on the issues that have been raised, noting that we'll then interface with the bill once it's been tabled to Parliament or referred to the committee in detail. So if there's any other matter in relation to the process, then after I'll invite Commissioner Moyapsa to comment. Members can raise your hands. Okay, can I invite the Chief State Law Advisor if there's any other matter before members come in? Are they not in the meeting, Mr. Matonsi?
Chairperson, we because the bill has not been introduced, so we don't have a Chief State Law Advisor, but there is Advocate van der Merwe. She's in the meeting from Parliament.
Okay. Noted. Members, I will invite Advocate Shaman. Is there any other matter you want to comment on?
Thank you, Chair. No, I actually just attended to understand where the department is with this bill. As we keep an eye, especially where there might be some constitutional court judgments affected. So we just wanted to understand where the department and the IEC is in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate. Honorable Ngubane.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think we appreciate the presentation on the bill progress by Advocate Malekate. Is there probably maybe Advocate Malekate can highlight the beyond what he presented, where he can highlight what you call this, the specific policy problem or the bill that is intended to solve. So just as a reminder to all of us, and how does this amendment add value to the current electoral framework? Is there a way we can get this brief in a nutshell, Chair, that what does this bill trying to resolve as a reminder to all of us, if we can get that rephrased, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane. Any other comment, members? Okay, let me invite Commissioner Miepza also to deal with the comment that Honorable Ngubane has raised. Unless Advocate Malikati will want to attend, but let me invite Commissioner Miepza. Commissioner?
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. The Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, members of the Commission, the CEO and DG, and senior members of the IEC and the Department of Home Affairs, our guests who have joined us in this meeting. Warm greetings from us at the Electoral Commission. Chair, let me begin with the question asked by Honorable Ngubane. This bill seeks to amend the Electoral Commission Act 1996, the Electoral Act 1998, and the Local Government Municipal Electoral Act 2000. We do so in preparation of the local government elections, as well as to align the relevant provisions of the legislation relating to the national and provincial elections with those relating to, those parts we would deal with in local government. In particular, we want to enhance the existing legislative mechanisms to ensure free and fair elections in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic. There are specific references I would wish to draw members' attention onto. The purpose of the bill is first to amend the Electoral Commission Act in that we provide for the mandatory deregistration of unrepresented political parties that fail to annually renew their registration. In this respect, Chair, let me remind honorable members that every year unrepresented political parties must file a return indicating that they continue to exist, they still pursue registration as a political party, and that they would be participating in elections. But as we often find, there are many that just don't do and don't participate ever, and simply stop participating. In this respect, we are proposing that a mechanism to deal with those parties. We are also dealing with a provision regarding the eligibility of registered parties to participate or to contest in elections. We are not changing the law, we're just enhancing the provision there. In terms of the Electoral Act, we are amending certain definitions. We are deleting one provision. We are also amending provisions providing for the requirements for eligibility to apply for registration as a voter. We are dealing with administration of objections that the Commission is required to attend to in a defined short period of time. We are making provisions so that those objections can be dealt with practically and meaningfully. We are specifying the authority of the Commission to deal or to attend to objections. In other words, on deciding objections. These are implied if you look at the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and the regulations, but we think we must put them beyond doubt and specifically provide for them. And we're making consequential amendments related thereto. In respect of the Municipal Electoral Act, we are also amending a definition and dealing with matters related to the eligibility of registered parties to contest those elections. Those are essentially the issues that this bill is dealing with. In respect of the work that has already been done, we have noted the progress reported by the Department of Home Affairs. It is work that we are doing with them, and we believe that they have made that representation sufficiently. Safe to say that the department has indicated that they're waiting for the SIS report. We are also keen to have that dealt with as soon as possible and to find ways in which this bill could be dealt with expeditiously. Thank you, Chairperson. That is where we are at. I appreciate that, and we can take questions if there are questions for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Muyepta, for those comments. Members will not engage on this process. What we'll do is that once the bill has been tabled before Parliament and referred to the committee, as we're fully aware that we must also invite public comments around what is proposed in the bill, and therefore have an engagement with the Independent Electoral Commission around these matters and the issues that will be arising from the comments or written comments. The committee will decide which route we are taking. As it stands, is an internal process that Cabinet must satisfy, and that the IEC has already submitted the proposed issues to the executive. I must note that we did receive this brief last year in relation to the intention of the Commission around the amendments that may need to be carried by Parliament. So I would suggest that we then, with those, unless there's another matter that's critical that may need to be to the attention of the committee, the executive, before we wrap up. Is there any other matter in relation to this matter? But I thought the framework summary I've provided will assist the committee and will have enough time to engage once the bill has been tabled before Parliament. Is there any other matter, members? Deputy Minister?
No, thank you, Chair. There's no other matter from our side. Just to request that we be excused because I don't think we are needed for the next item, so that management and ourselves can also focus on other responsibilities, Chair. Thank you. Unless if you still need us.
Okay, I will come back to the matter at TM. Yeah, I think we're done with. If there's no any other matter, and that is the process. Honorable Ngubane, are you fine with the update?
Yes, Chairperson, I'm okay. I'm good. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, the Independent Electoral Commission, Commissioner Muyepta, and your executive. We can release you. This was the only item. The only area which I think we must focus on, DM, is the time frame on how you are processing it with the structures which have highlighted on the report at the level of the Cabinet that will assist the Independent Electoral Commission. So we don't rush the process once the matter has been tabled before us and the elections are closer. because it's an involved process. We must issue the invite for public comments. The IEC must come back to the committee. We must deliberate. We must also give a report to Parliament. So I think it's important that at least with this good progress, we're able to monitor closely the process at the level of cabinet. The second item, it requires you, DM, and your team. You can delegate who must remain with the meeting, but it's important that the Director General, because it's a report that as you'll be expected to present, to respond to in our scheduled meeting, even though we've sent a report to your attention, but it's important that once the content advisor brief us on the issues that we've received, then we will able to note some of the issues, even members that are going to raise some of the issues on the content advisor's report. We'll now release the IEC. Thanks very much. And DM and the DG will navigate on how you're going to attend the sessions. Yeah. Can I now invite the content advisor?
Yes, Chair. Good morning. Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. Just share the presentation. So as the members will be aware, we've been working on this one since November 2024 already in its current version. And to date, we've received a total of 1,761 submissions on this bill, and having covered all the provinces. So there's a
Can the content advisor raise the voice a bit? We can't hear him.
Okay. Let me just stand a little bit closer. Is that better?
You can proceed, please. Thank you.
So we got a combination of 876 oral submissions as well as 885 written submissions. The vast majority of the written submissions were from Christian and Muslim groups. And there's a mix of those, the views. However, generally, the overall sentiment was against, based on those religious sentiments and the written submissions, as well as 20% for the bill and 10% partially in favor of the bill. When looking purely at the oral testimony, there's a slightly different perspective where we have like 57% partial or for the bill and 43 against. So looking at a regional overview for the provinces, we can see that the areas in red are majority against, whereas Eastern Cape there is in favor. And then you contrast that with the mixed views represented by the Western Cape and Limpopo, where LGBTQ, Khoisan, and other traditional perspectives had more influence. Then going down to a provincial level, again, this is a high-level overview. But in Gauteng, there were 64% were against, based on largely on the Muslim input, and contrasting that and saying that it's in out of alignment with secular law. And also concerns around fake pastors and foreign nationals abusing the system. The quote there is that God did not create men to marry men, which is something repeated across the provinces. In the Northwest, there was a concern around sovereignty and security. Again, fears of marriages of convenience and citizens demanding stricter vetting of foreign nationals, such as DNA tests and 5-year waiting periods. then just a quote there from along those lines. I've just quoted one of the submissions, and then going down to KZN and the Free State. In KZN, 53% were against the bill. And there was particularly a strong pushback on clause 6 that in indicating that in Zulu custom consent is consultative, that is consent from the first wife for a second marriage, and it's not a she doesn't have the legal veto to prevent a further marriage. In the Free State, there were again majority against, that there was a sense that there was a moral degradation that would happen through the integration of civil union marriages, as well as a lot of mention of fat and set, the sense of like marrying with, or like cohabiting without out being married and them having no protection. On the one hand, and the other hand, that the normalization of cohabitation will make women is making women vulnerable. And then a strong objection to polyandry, although as we know it wasn't in the bill. Eastern Cape, 70% in favor of the bill there, and particularly given that it's seen as a tool to protect children, and residents demanding the bill criminalize ukutwala, the forced marriages, and the enforcing of age limits. In Mpumalanga, there was a mixed or partial support, particularly in relation to whether when lobola is paid and marriage is not yet registered, is it still a marriage? And residents demanding that the payment be the legal starting point. And again, just a quote there. In the Northern Cape, the conservative stronghold was the general sentiment. Particularly conscientious objection in clause 11, pastors and imams fear being criminalized for refusing same-sex unions, and the demand for ex officio or officials to be protected to have the same right of moral objection within the department. And there, yeah, 80% against. So it's a very strong sentiment there. And the sense that perhaps the introduction or inclusion of the civil union into the marriage bill will bring the wrath of God. Then in the Western Cape, there was a more balanced perspective. Of the 95 submissions, more or less a third of each were partially for, against, or in favor of. The vast majority of those against there were against it in terms of Sharia law, Muslim law. And then there was a partial support from the indigenous sector, on the basis, or so as long as their Khoisan or their traditional marriage ceremonies were also acknowledged. And then particularly in Khayelitsha and George, there was a stronger presence of the for polyandry, as well as the recognition of same-sex and different gender identification recognition. And Limpopo, our most recent province, this mention of consanguinity, the bill preventing marriage between close relatives, and certain cultural groups indicating that marriage of cousins is part of their culture, and they fear that this could be criminalized, as well as a kind of a religious and cultural objection to and tampering with gender roles. And there we see 35% for, 23% partially in favor of, and 41% against. In terms of the top 10 objections by percentage of the overall submissions, the rejection of polyandry and same-sex marriage was the most prominent mention. Again, this is not the 65% of the submissions, but there were many submissions that included many different points. And so if we look at the overall perspective, not the overall submissions, we'll get these statistics. And then a large percentage of the written submissions from the Muslim community arguing for the recognition of Sharia law as it is, as it stands, rather than adapted to the bill. And then 35% in favor of raising the age of marriage to 21. Conscientious, 25% conscientious objection for officials working in the Home Affairs to be able to refuse same-sex marriages. 20% in favor of stricter vetting of marriages to foreigners. 15% calling for some form of scrapping or removing the requirement for the first wife to give consent to further marriages. 12% calling for some kind of regulation of cohabitation. 10% calling for voiding of all child marriages. 10% saying that lobola should equal marriage. And then 8% talking in terms of cultural or Khoisan recognition of marriages. The next 10 main themes are kind of related around operational and procedural recommendations. So the decentralization of designation is as in removing the requirement that a congregation needs 250 members' signatures in order for a pastor to be designated as a marriage officer. And then several other submissions requesting an extension of the registration period from 14 days to 30 days, all the way up to 1 year. Access point. So the arguments for appointing all different kinds of other people as marriages officers, potentially, whether they be ward councillors, social workers, and other officials. Mandatory premarital counseling was mentioned quite a few times. Muslim property regime, defaulting to out of community of property. Several calling for either recognition of equality of polyandry on the constitutional basis of equality, that if polygamy is allowed, then so should polyandry be. And then yes, and then there was a few mentions of vetting further polygamous marriage or subsequent marriages, vetting that the man involved wasn't involved in any way in gender-based violence. Quite a few calls for the separation of the acts. So, but this is getting to like more and more minority perspective. So there were definitely quite a few mentioning this, but they're in the 10% or so range. Then a call for DNA testing of foreign marriages. And then prison penalties for fraudulent officers. Then these are a lot more niche. These are like some like 10% and less. Okay, so the consanguinity exception, as in like being able to marry cousins, with the Limpopo specific mostly. Rights for ex officio government officers, as we mentioned before, but it's a smaller group. Traditional courts being able to handle courts to divorces, to be able to expedite the very long divorce proceedings. Call for breathalyzer tests for testing what a sound mind means when consenting to marriage. Specifically in the Western Cape, calling for more gender neutral language in the definition of spouse, or in favor of that kind of language already in the bill. in contrast to Christian groups calling for the traditional husband and wife terminology to be retained. More education campaigns in indigenous languages on the rights of marriage and requirements. There was a few mentions of the disability rights in sound mind clauses, as in should persons with mental disabilities be allowed to marry or not, and some calling in favor of that. An amnesty window for historical marriages, so extending the period in which traditional marriages could still be recognized. And then lastly, the Ukutwala criminalization, which is already criminal under criminal law. The Muslim community submissions. Okay, so like I mentioned, there was a big written submission contingent where the attempts to civilize Muslim marriages under secular law should be abandoned and rather just recognize them as they stand in Sharia law. Technically, specifically, that nikah or Muslim marriages must be legally binding without even being civilly re-registered. Secondly, that the default property regime must be out of community of property, which is the Islamic standard. And then the automatic designation for imams as marriage officers rather than needing to have a size of congregation or having to go through Department of Home Affairs. Specifically things that were left out of the bill, a mention of things that weren't in the bill that should be. There was public sentiment that there needs to be some form of protection for long-term unregistered unions, so cohabited couples, particularly in the case of the long-term spouse dying and inheritance and the related matters. The public sentiment was that also that marriages are easy and divorces are expensive and difficult, hence the recommendation that traditional courts be able to process dissolutions. And then a recurring theme that redefining marriage structures can contribute to societal breakdown and moral decay. Suggestions going forward. So these are just merely the perspectives as they stand, without like internal recommendations. But the general kinds of recommendations purely from the submission side were that a two-tier approach be followed, rather separating civil recognition from religious solemnization, and like quick universal fixes were to immediately increase the age of marriage to 21, in like more vetting or more high standards for vetting of marriages to foreigners, and decentralizing or removing some of the requirements from the officer's appointment, a marriage officer appointment, and then also some calls for the first wife consent and lobola as a sufficient requirement for marriage to be introduced. Again, these are matters that we can also recommend for the further consultation for the select committee once they take over from us, should we not decide to implement them immediately. That's what I have so far, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Salmon, for the brief. Can I ask if this is the final report according to what you have prepared and we have engaged on? Can I just check that part?
Yes, Chairperson. So this was an attempt to consolidate the very complicated. I originally had it I have it as a written document too, but the presentation is it just consolidates the very complex issues, and it's easier to understand. So I have the verbatim text and then all the notes, and this is the the report. I haven't refined the actual report as a written document yet. I can provide a written document if necessary, but at this stage, the report is in a presentation format.
Okay. I will suggest that I'm raising this question deliberately so that it's noted. And I'm happy that you confirm that there are other issues that must then influence some of the summary that you have detailed in the report, because it's necessary that we do that sufficiently. Members of the public, once a report is presented like this, Mr. Salmon, they take more interest. And you have noticed that throughout the public hearings, communities and stakeholders, this subject matter has drawn an interest. So we don't want, when we get a report from the Department of Home Affairs, they deal with some of the issues that are not in the report, or they're in the report but they're not accurately captured. It may as well reflect bad on the part of the committee that we've swift some of the issues, or we've drafted a report that does not represent some of the views that are carried. So I wanted us to move from that space so that we note that this constitutes a summary on the report, but we may need to submit a detailed report to the Department of Home Affairs, so that at least we have a responsibility to highlight some of the issues that are entailed on the report. And I don't want to get into some of the issues that are raised, which may not necessarily reflect the attitude of the comments we've received on the issues, but we can do as a working document that must also assist the department and their legal teams to make sure that when they come to the portfolio committee, they come with a detailed report, because they've been joining us in all public hearings that must reflect the responses that we require. This will assist the committee and the department at the point of deliberations, and also to finalize the subject matter. And as you indicate, it must also go to the National Council of Provinces. So we don't, and I think that is the attitude of the committee. We don't want to defer matters to NCOP, which we could have at least dealt with, complex matter that could have dealt with, so that at least the NCOP become easier for the team to deal with. So I just want to raise those comments so that we clear up our minds when we engage on this matter. The second one, which I wanted to also raise, members, is the time frame to conclude this bill. Parliament, which include NCOP and the NA, is a matter, Mr. Salmon, with the legal team, we may need to look at carefully, so that we don't compress time for purpose of compliance, but not opening up to thorough processing of the matter. In other words, we may need to look at how we can request for an extension. And I'm not saying that that's a decision, but I'm saying we must bear in mind that the department's led to come to the committee, reflect on that, given also our program of the committee and other issues that are before the committee to deal with. So we may need also to work around that at the point that the legal team have identified that it's not going to be possible for the NSOP to conclude within that time frame because of our engaged work on the subject matter. The parliamentary legal services may need to advise the committee so that we will also work on how we can navigate that. Members, this is a report that has been presented, and will then invite your comment. The department is not going to respond today. They have no report to respond. They're waiting for this briefing and the comments from members. We'll schedule them to come back to give a detailed report on the conversation between the portfolio committee, public hearings, and all stakeholders and South Africans. Members, comments? I'll start with the Honorable Machi and Honorable Bolman. Honorable Machi.
Sorry, Chair, I'm battling to raise my hand, but my hand is up.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to you, our Honorable Chairperson, my honorable colleagues and our respective officials. Chairperson, firstly, I've got to thank our content advisor with the team for the presentation, even if it's not yet finalized. But we've got to thank seeing the progress. I've got some few questions, Chairperson. First one, I would like to find out whether or can the department clarify the constitutional basis for the bill and confirm whether it has been tested for compliance with the Bill of Rights, particularly equality and the freedom of religion. The other one is how will the bill affect existing legislation, and are there any consequential amendments required to avoid legal uncertainty? The last one, what training and capacity building measures are planned to ensure officials can implement the legislation effectively once enacted? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Machi. Honorable Bolman.
Thank you, Chair. I'd echo Honorable Machi's sentiments. I don't believe that this could have been a very easy task collating all this information and data. So, yeah, although this is just a preliminary presentation, I just want to thank the team for the work that they have done. I have one question, and that is really regarding the methodology that was used to assess and weight the 885 written submissions. Obviously, what we've seen is that there was a large coordinated faith-based bloc who submitted similar inputs. And I would like to just understand whether there was any differentiation between the unique individual submissions and then versus the organized campaign submissions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bolman. Honorable Mukhale.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. No, mine is just very simple, Chair. Because I see some of the things that I thought will be reflected are not reflected on the presentation. However, I heard you say we're going to get a much more detailed report from the content advisor, because there are issues such as that were raised very sharply, particularly in the last province, in Limpopo, around Musadwala, those kind of issues, Chair, including the issues around customary marriage, whether customary marriage should automatically be in community of property. because as Africans we know that customary marriage, it's paying the what you call lobola is part and process of the steps that we follow to get married, and that is something that was also raised in the public hearings, Chair, around issues of the marital regime that applies automatically on a customary marriage without the input or the consent of the two parties. So I don't see it captured there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mukhale. Honorable Ngubane.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the presentation, Chair, of collating the whole information was beautifully done, and we appreciate the presentation. It was well represented, well presented. So, Chair, what I would like to ask, I don't know whether it must come out from this presentation or Advocate Molekate will deal with this. Because once we've collected all this information and we've had people, we need to somehow assist this committee as well as the department now of the unintended consequences of of the work that we are doing and the risks pertaining to it. Things that always happens, the litigations exposure, and how are they going to deal with that now in terms of writing their text to cover the Home Affairs or this bill on many things that we collated, that we see that, okay, we are being exposed on other things that we are not planning to expose ourselves in, like legal challenges. If that either it comes out from this presentation, now that we've had the people, or Mr. Advocate Molekate will give us what it is that we're exposed to, so that upfront we let the department know what it is that is coming to us and how we can handle it in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngubane. Honorable Roos.
Thank you, Chair, and allow me to join in the chorus of appreciation for the slide deck. I think it's really beautifully presented and compiled. Chair, I do share your concern about the report. We do need a proper detailed report. So looking forward to receiving that. Also, Chair, I do concur with you in terms of not rushing this process. It is by nature affects every single South African, and it is a complex process. So it is not something that should be rushed. And the court does have a interim provision in place. The Divorce Amendment Bill has already been passed, covering a number of elements of that court judgment. And so ours was ready to recognize Muslim marriages. But so I do agree with you, Chair. We shouldn't rush the process and should try and rather get an extension if possible. Then, Chair, I know we are deliberating the report and not the bill, but I think it's important that we ensure that the public participation inputs are accurately captured in this report. And the first slide talks about the written effect on national sentiment. And then it says that shifts the mandate heavily against the bill in its current form. But Chair, it makes sense that the Muslim community would provide a lot of inputs. Maybe the Women's Legal Centre matter, which is the basis for this bill, was about Muslim marriages. And I'm a little bit concerned about the implication that these inputs are skewing the outcome, and therefore somehow invalidating them. And we should really agree whether written inputs carry the same weight as oral inputs or not. But I think that first slide, to me, it treads a bit of a dangerous line where we say, well, perhaps there was some sort of a block that provided a lot of inputs, and therefore it might skew the outcome of this. So we shouldn't say that unless it's absolutely proven, as Honourable Bowman has suggested. Then, Chair, I think the second matter is that the slides are beautiful, but what they don't pick up is really the elephant in the room. And when you look at legislation, all legislation should address some sort of mischief in legal terms. So what mischief is the legislation trying to address? And we are guided by the Women's Legal Centre case. And it was really about women and children being left destitute upon the dissolution of a Muslim marriage in particular. But in these hearings, time after time after time, we heard the countless stories of women in African customary marriages being left penniless and destitute because their marriage was not registered. We also heard countless stories of children being married off. And the question of whether that could possibly be, they could possibly have some sort of an agency in that, or, to be considered to agree to that, and that it would be in their best interests. And I don't believe that these inputs have been reflected at all in this presentation. So perhaps in the bigger report, we're going to see that. But there were countless stories of this, Chair, and I believe that it's inadequately reflected in this report and that it needs to be addressed. These women and children need our support, but their voice is not heard in this report. Then, Chair, just in terms of the strategic options, I think that these are things now that the advisors are saying are potential next steps. So again, not to engage in substantive matters, but there's a slide that suggests a way forward in that we engage with the traditional houses on the first wife consent. Chair, I guess it's a question, but you'd mentioned that the department would not respond now, but they'd probably need to advise us. This committee has been briefed on the Mailani matter. So in Mailani, the court highlighted the right to equality and human dignity that are constitutional guarantees in the Bill of Rights. And basically, in the light of those constitutional guarantees, a determination was to be made whether the constitutional demand that the consent of the first wife be given before a subsequent customary marriage can validly be entered into. And this is what the court grappled with. And it found that the first wife's right to equality and human dignity were not compatible with a set of rules that allow her husband to marry another wife without the first wife's consent. And this judgment was also reconfirmed again in the King versus Diaga matter. So I think we just need clarity, Chair, on whether, to my understanding, this is a constitutional court ruling, and whether we have the right to go over that ruling and go and negotiate on this matter. I would appreciate some guidance on that, Chair. Then the other matter is the two-tier approach, and I think it's, it talks there potentially about separating the solemnization and the registration of marriage, which is fine. But there was a similar matter which was raised on multiple occasions. And that was the call to leave the current marriage regime of the three separate marriage acts intact and to make amendments to these to recognize Muslim marriages and any other issues that urgently need to be addressed, such as the issues involving women and children. So this input was raised on multiple occasions, the possibility to not create a single marriage bill and to rather make amendments to the existing legislation. Then there is also a way forward that suggests we immediately adopt an age of 21. And I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding, Chair, so perhaps the content advisor can advise. But again, Article 21.2 of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, it states that child marriage and the betrothal of girls and boys shall be prohibited, and effective action, including legislation, shall be taken to specify 18 years as the minimum age of marriage. So I think we also just need clarity. Is this binding to us, as we are a signatory to this without reservation? South Africa is a signatory to this charter, so is it binding on us? Or is this something that we can consider? And then if we consider it, Chair, the counter argument was that if the legal age for consensual sex is 16, and then you force people to only get married at 21 or 24, then they would need to wait 4 or 5 years before being able to get married if they had a child as a result of that consensual sex. So if we are allowed to consider this or permitted to consider this, we would probably need some sort of an impact assessment on what this would entail. For example, how many persons under 21 are giving birth, and that would then be affected by such a situation. But in conclusion, Chair, I think South Africa is faced with a pandemic of violence against women and girls. And so we really need to reflect that in this report. So that this report reflects those countless voices. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Any other comment, members? Okay. It will suggest that we note the report. Mr. Salmon, it means therefore that the report must not be titled as the final report. We note collective work that has been done to draft the report for the attention of the committee, and think it was necessary that is presented for comments by members of the committee on some of the issues that we know that the team that was taking notes, including members of the honorable members, have been paying attention to the issues that they've raised. We then have to go back and lift some of these issues, and this will be able to make it easier for the department to respond in details some of those issues that are being raised by members in our next committee meeting. I'm sure also with the methods that have been established to arrive on certain percentage around what it meant for submissions that were carried by members in the public, which Honorable Bolman has raised. And all members have raised comments on the absence of some of the issues that we have been noting during the public hearings. And I'm sure when we dealt with a detailed subject issue in, for example, in KwaZulu-Natal and also in Tafelkop recently, I think that public hearing spent time on the issues that we should have captured in the report, which Honorable Mohale has raised. So we think therefore that with these comments, we then have to your team work around lifting those issues. I'm quite certain that also the department has compiled their own report in terms of the issues that are coming from the public, and it will make it easier for both the reports to consolidate the response from the department. I will invite, firstly, on the issue of the extension, I'll call Ms. Singisa, if she want to comment of any other matter. Then we'll invite Mr. Salmon, Advocate Malekate, and the DG to close on this matter. Parliamentary Legal Services.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members. Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity. Just needed to come in on the issue of the looming due date for the finalization of the bill. As this committee knows, it's the 27th of June, if I recall correctly, 2026, the time within which the Constitutional Court ordered that this process be finalized. So we are legal services in us trying to be proactive, seeing the looming date. We have requested and obtained political authorization from the Speaker to instruct the State Attorney to initiate a further extension application for us to get perhaps, even if it's 12 months, for this process to be finalized. So we are at the stage where we have issued the instructions to the State Attorney, and they are in the process of securing counsel to prepare the application, with which we're hoping that it will be lodged with the Constitutional Court before the expiry date. And we're hoping that by the time that the 27th of June comes, we would have received an extension order from the Constitutional Court. That's how far we are in terms of the extension application, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much with that update. We really appreciate it. Can I invite Advocate Malikat? Sorry, Mr. Salmon, before Advocate Malikat.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, I take note of the issues raised by some of the members. Again, the presentation was an attempt to give an overall view. And I have got a draft written report that I can refine that will include some more of the minute details that were left out from the presentation. But yes, I really do take note of the matter of like the question of protection of women and children is coming more to the forefront. And perhaps part of that lost was in the methodology in terms of the weighting of the submissions of the written versus the oral. The vast majority of the written submissions were from 3 Muslim and 2 Christian organizations, and those were like more substantive, and as in they went into more technical detail clause by clause, and so they were kind of more substantial and well researched and well expressed. And then the last third or so of those were just the individual short submissions saying like very one-line statements or one-paragraph statements with not as much substance. And so there was a mixed bagging of that. So both in terms of this, it's difficult to weigh the quality versus the individuality of those submissions. So we've captured them purely like numerically because it's difficult to weight. Yeah, it's difficult to weight one versus the other. So again, if you look at that presentation, the oral submissions, although they were less in number, did have more that sentiment of the need for the protection of women and children, particularly when in the case of death and in the case of subsequent marriages. Then on the let's see what else. Yeah, I think those are the main issues. I mean, then also just obviously the constitutionality. The recommendations that were listed there were merely those, primarily those summarized by the submitters themselves, not necessarily the view of the us as the team or necessarily of the constitutionality thereof. So the age of 21 was just mentioned by many people, but as is often repeated by Advocate Malakate, us complying with the international charters, setting the age of 21 at the age of marriage as 18 doesn't mean people have to get married at 18. It's merely that's the minimum age, and so that concern is indirectly addressed, particularly also if there's an inclusion of the requirement in some cases for premarital counseling, so that those who are getting married indicate in some way that they're aware of what they're getting themselves into, particularly younger people. So there's, I think, indirect ways of addressing that concern of not being ready to be married at the age of 18. And yeah, I think those are the main issues from me. And then all the rest of it, as I said, I'll indicate in the report, in the more detailed report, which I'll send out later today. Chair, thank you.
Okay, I think what we must take note, Mr. Salmon, is that members of the committee were in attendance to all the public hearings. So, and all of us, we know the issues that have been carried. And we're not necessarily dismissing the report, but we want it to reflect as a draft report, given that the purpose of you presenting it was for members to have an understanding where is the draft report, what are the issues are coming out, what are the issues that are not being captured, and how we can enhance so that we're able to have a fair, balanced issues that are arising. I think we must understand it from that point. It's not few issues. These are significant contributions that tilt the attitude of resolve on how our conversation is going to be when we're going to discuss with the Home Affairs. So we don't need to take it lightly that these are not worthy issues, are just small issues. So I think that's significant matters that the committee ought to take a responsibility when we deliberate and take a decision on this matter. So I think let's take it that point that the team of researchers and content advisors may need to go back and rework the submissions. We can send the draft report to the Department of Home Affairs and then work on the issues that the members have raised. And I want to thank all the issues that have been captured and yourself for having drafted the report to our attention. Advocate Malekate, and then I will invite DG and the DM if the DM is still in the meeting. Advocate Malekate.
Thank you, Chair. We have noted the report from the content advisor, but we are also noting the direction that the portfolio committee as well as the chair have taken, and we will await the report from the content advisor. We will then, Chair, provide a detailed report response when we are called upon to do so, and I think we will also be able to deal with the questions that were raised by Honorable Machi at that time, so that we are able to then deal concisely with everything. So once we receive the report, the revised report from the content advisor, we would then proceed to develop the departmental responses to the issues that are raised. And correctly so, Chair, we were part of the public hearings all through the country, and there were also issues that we also picked up, and we will also be able to lift that up and see if and try and marry in our response the issues that have been identified from the portfolio committee, and then deal with the same when we come back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Advocate Malekate. DG.
Chair, thank you. It's DM Zuza. The
DM.
DG had to actually go and chair the JCPS meeting. Yeah, that's why I had requested that probably we release some of them. But I think, Chair, the sitting in has been very much useful. We have noted all the discussions. Subsequently, we know that the report will then come through and will also factor through the observations that we made, because we had invested in making sure that we go with the team. We dispatch the teams for the public hearings that were conducted. So we have also a first-time experience in some of the issues, but everything, Chair, remains that of the process of the committee. As legislators remain here in Parliament, we'll then do those responses, and then when invited to the portfolio committee, we'll then deal with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DM, and thanks, Advocate Malekate, and also Mr. Salmon and all members on this item. DM we can release you now that, and thanks for staying, because it's important for you and the team to remain to take note of the issues that the committee will have observed on the report that you presented. Thanks very much. The last two items was for the portfolio committee to deal with. Can I invite Mr. Matonze?
Yes, Chair. Okay, Chairperson and members. So this is an update regarding the study tour. The last update we gave, it was on the 27th of January. In that meeting, I did report on when the study tour will take place and also when the political application was submitted. And then on the line number 3 is that the financial application was submitted 19 February, and then on the 25th of February it was signed by the division manager, and then on the 27th it was signed by the chief financial officer. So the application has since been forwarded to Parliament Legal Services. Thereafter it will be forwarded to the Secretary to Parliament for final approval. So at the moment there are only 2 people that need to sign the financial application. That is the legal service. From there, it goes to the Secretary to Parliament. And also, I did indicate earlier that we did submit a letter and the concept paper to the Minister of International Relations. That was done on the 16th of January. Then I've done some follow-ups, emails on the date that are reflected there, 27th of January, 3 February, 10 February, 11 February, 18 February, 20 February, and the last one was last week on the 26th. And then also to indicate that the letter was also sent to the IEC to invite them to accompany the committee on the tour, and then they've responded positively that they will indeed accompany the committee once everything is done. The South African High Commission in India, they have sent the request to the Minister of External Affairs in India, so that they can alert the Indian Parliament and the Electoral Commission of India, and we are waiting for response. So last week on the 27th, I contacted the embassy through a WhatsApp because I could not get them to respond. And then the contact there was on sick leave, and then I contacted him. He said no, they have not yet received anything from the Indian Parliament and the commission there. So he will follow up yesterday. So I also contacted the protocol officer via WhatsApp. This is the protocol officer at the Indian Parliament, to confirm if they've received a request from the South African High Commission. And then he undertook to revert back to me. And then today, this morning, he just WhatsApped me while we were in the meeting to say the Indian Parliament, they have not yet received that request from the Ministry of External Affairs. And then while I was in the meeting as well today, I was called by the embassy, but I could not talk to them because I was busy in the meeting, that I'll call them back. In terms of logistics, Chairperson, the Standing Committee on Appropriation, they went to India. So because they were using official passport, they did not require visas. If you are using official passport. Also, there are no specific health requirements to travel to India. For instance, the issue of the yellow certificate. So they did not do that. So those things will not be needed. And then in terms of the quotation that we have received, we have chosen to use the Emirates airline, and then accommodation has been identified at the Taj Mahal Hotel in New Delhi, and then ground transport will also be coordinated in India. Some changes in the airline routes may be necessary given the unfolding conflict in the Middle East. So at the moment, what we are reading is that the airspace has been closed there. We don't know how long that will take, but we'll be monitoring the situation as well. And also, I just wanted to let members know that we're still waiting for the Secretary to sign. So in other words, the issue of the flights, accommodation, and ground transport, we cannot confirm them to say, no, we have secured them, because that approval has not been given. So once the Secretary to Parliament approves the financial application that is going to go to him probably this week, it's only then that we'll be able to confirm the flights and accommodation and ground transport. But also the other issue is that we still also need the Indian Parliament and the Electoral Commission there to confirm their availability on those days. So those two issues needs to be confirmed first, and then from there we are able to secure the flights, accommodation, and ground transport. And we'll also be working on they have a draft program that we have sent to them. So probably once they have confirmed those days, we'll be able to work on those draft program and be sharing it with the committee. So that's basically it, Chairperson, from my side. Unless if from my colleagues there are any inputs that they want to give in. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, Eddie, can I quickly come in, Chair, and just indicate that the input from Honorable Roos on the civil registration matter on like the expanded registration and
Adams, it's not how the meetings run.
Okay. Just Eddie asked for further input. Sorry, Chair.
It's not that we're dealing with the study tour. It has to deal with the previous item.
Oh, no, Chair. This is on the study tour.
Okay. I thought it was the previous item.
No, sorry, Chair. Yes, just to indicate, we did update the program on the matter of engaging on the expanded portable registration of citizenship in India as part of the agenda, rather than just purely on electoral matters, but also around civil registration. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, what do we need to do, Mr. Adams and Mr. Matonsi, for purpose of better conversation? I'm not sure whether you are also ready to table the program to the committee now, and also the schedule of issues we're going to deal with that side. And if you are ready to do that, and if you've prepared it, you can do it before I invite members. I'm not sure if you have that.
I might have to look for it, Chairperson, because I thought we were just going to be giving only the update.
Okay.
Yes,
Mr. Adams?
Chair, also just to add that that program is provisional until such time as the Indian Parliament indicate their availability. So at this stage we have a draft, but it can change significantly based on what our counterparts in India give back to us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members? Ola.
All right. No, thank you very much, Chair. I think it would have been good to also see that draft, Chair, to see how many. Because I assume you're speaking to the itinerary when we get that side in terms of the meetings and whatever that will be happening. I think that draft, we would like to see it, Chairperson, so that we can have inputs around there. Of course, the dates and the confirmations are subject to change, but let's see what is on that draft, Chair.
Okay, you can run through the draft, Mr. Matons. I see you have.
Yeah. So I'll just start. If we leave on a Friday, we arrive there on a Saturday, and then we propose that we can have a dinner with the ambassador and have an informal briefing on the situation there, and then on the Sunday the 12th, and then it will be like a rest day. Then 13, then we meet with the departmentally related standing committee on personnel, public grievances, law and justice, which oversee the Electoral Commission of India on electoral voting and reform. Then on a Tuesday, the following day, we meet with the Electoral Commission of India, which administer elections, including introduction of electronic voting technology and key aspects of electronic system and reform. Then on a Wednesday, we engage with the national or state political party leadership. And then we also meet with the relevant division of the Ministry of Home Affairs or Registrar General on Census Commissioner responsible for accelerated expansion of the civil registration system under the Registration of Birth and Death Act. That's what Adam was adding on my presentation. And then on the 16th, engage with civil society democracy, advocacy groups, Association for Democratic Reform, People's Union for Civil Liberties, and then Mafo Kisan Shakto. And then on the 17th, which is Friday, meet with members from the ad hoc high-level committee on One Nation, One Election. Okay. I think this was a mistake. It was supposed not to be the issue of Namibia. And then, and then the following day we depart. That's all, Chair.
Okay. Thanks very much. I will propose that we note the update. And we facilitate action by, I think there's a lot of approvals need to be taken, because we're in March now. Yeah, what's March and April is closer. We may need to be focused so that at least in the subsequent meetings we are briefed by details of the readiness. I don't want to say that the same approach we took in the last 2 trips, we're likely to find ourselves in the later when we're supposed to depart to this institution. So I'll propose that we deal with the specific, particularly on our side, Mr. Matonsi and Mr. Salmon, both in our Parliament administration, and get the IEC. I know that they are assisting us. We then have to. I know that there's a committee that has went to Brazil last weekend, and they've started the preparations. When we cancel our trip, the week that they've canceled our trip, they have started preparation for their tour to Brazil, and you can see the short time that they've dealt with. So I'll propose that let's pay attention to that process, and solicit how we can be assisted by other committees to make sure that we give a detailed report. I know that there was some disease. I'm not sure it's some disease in India, Mr. Matons. In the period that appropriation went there, we managed to get also clarity whether members have to undergo certain specific medical or acquire medical requirements, so that we don't plunge members into a problem when they come back. It's something that at least we need to work out. But also the weather conditions are important for the members of the community to note, so that we're familiar with that. We'll then request that we finalize all the issues, Mr. Matonsi, Mr. Salmon, that we are now engaging with other stakeholders, the embassy, and also the Independent Electoral Commission, that side. Members, is there any other recommendation you want to advise the team to look at?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think you will remember that in the last on the trip that we're working on, the Brazil trip, one of the items that we had included as part of our itinerary was to check how the system work in a real, live situation where if there's a by-election or whatever kind of election that will be happening, so that we can observe how that system is operated. So I don't know if India has by-elections that maybe we can observe to see how that system work physically, not just theory and all of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Salmon?
Yes, to indicate, Chair, just that the Nipah virus breakout in India was in the far south and east of the country, and it hasn't in the last month there have been no further expansions into the rest of the country. So they were localized threats, and there won't be a challenge in Delhi, which is in the far northwest. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Is the matter that Onam Khal is raising in the concept document that you have sent to the other colleagues or stakeholders in that site?
There was mention of it, but it's not in the program. But yes, I think it's a good idea to revise it to see if there's a possibility of having hands-on. But there aren't at this stage any planned by-elections or national elections in the vicinity of where we're going. So this is why we didn't include it. But we can ask them if there's some other way of engaging practically on electoral processes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Noted. Is there any other comment, members, around this matter? All right. Let's resolve as is, and then we'll then get update in our next meeting. Now that Mr. Matons indicated that there were some developments during our this morning around this preparation. We'll now move to the last item.
Yes, Chairperson, the last item is to adopt minutes. We have minutes starting from July last year. We need to adopt.
How many minutes are we going to have?
So far, what I've opened here, I've got 10 sets of minutes, but there are others that we can still add, about 18 or so.
Okay. Can I suggest that we deal with 5 minutes, set of minutes?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The Chairperson, the minutes were all sent to members to go through them. And then the first one, it would be the 1st of July 2025, where we were dealing with the presentation of the strat plan and the APP of the government printing works and the DHA on the ICT. Then the content advisor also briefed us on the budget vote report. Then we adopted minutes, and then briefing on the committee on the public hearings, the program on the committee public hearings on the marriage bill in the Free State and Northern Cape. And yeah, that's all, Chair. And then these are the members who were in the meeting. If there's any correction, Chair. And then this page on the opening remarks, apologies, engagement with the GPW on their presentation, the strat plan in the APP, department, content advisor briefing on the budget vote report. And then those are the minutes that were adopted on that day. And also on the issue of the public hearings in the Northern Cape and the Free State.
Okay, noted. Members, this is the set of minutes which were reflects the conversation we had with our stakeholders Is there any other comment? Okay, can I recognize hands for the adoption of the minutes? Honorable Mtolo?
Thank you, Chairperson, Christine, members. I move for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Machi?
Seconded, Chairperson.
Thank you. Any other contrary view? Thanks. Minutes carried. Can you move to a second minute?
Okay, Chair. Then the next one was on the 3rd of July. Consideration or adoption of the budget vote report. Sorry, I'm moving fast. Here are the members who attended the meeting. On this page. Opening remarks, apologies. Then briefing by the content advisor, where we also adopted the budget vote report. It was a short meeting, Chair.
Thanks, members. Any comment around it? Can I recognize the hands for mover for adoption? Honorable Mtolo?
Thank you, Chair. I move, Chair, for the adoption of the minutes.
Second, Honorable Ross?
Thank you, Chair. I second the adoption.
Thank you. Honorable contrary view? The minutes have been carried. Can you move to a third set of minutes?
Chair, is 14 October. Briefing by the state law advisor and adoption of the A-list on the one-stop border post. And then briefing by the IEC and GPW on their annual reports. And then also briefing on the timeline to implement the white paper on citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. Then we also have to consider the letter from the Chief Justice regarding the filling of the vacant post of the IEC commissioners. And then also there was a presentation on the study tour to Brazil. These are the members who were in the meeting.
Noted, members. Can we, if there's any other matter around the third minutes? Move on for the adoption. Hello, Rose.
Chair, I move for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you. Any seconder? Honorable Ngubane?
Chair, I second the minute.
Thank you. In contrary view? Minutes have been carried. Can we now move to the fourth set?
If I jump, but okay. This will be 3rd September. I think I didn't number them correctly. Okay, it's fine. And then the tabling of the IEC letter on the amendments of the Electoral Amendment Bill and the letter from the Chief Justice to fill the position of the IEC commissioners, consideration of and adoption of the report on the 2024 national and provincial election report, and then committee deliberation on the one-stop border post, and then update on the public hearings for Western Cape and Limpopo. These were the members who were in the meeting.
Thank you. Any comment around these minutes? Thank you. Can I invite mover, Honorable Bowman?
Sorry, Chair, I'm not about moving. I just see, I think the Jammer's surname has been spelt as Jam. So I think maybe that needs to be corrected. I saw it there, yeah, SP Jam.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
I think with that correction, we'll move for the adoption.
correct. I will.
Any other matter, members? Okay. Honorable Bowman, she has moved for the adoption. Any seconder? Seconder to the minutes.
Chair, I'll second.
Thank you, Honorable Ross. Any contrary view? The minutes have been carried. Can we now move to the last set of minutes?
Chair. 7 October. Briefing by the AG on the audit outcomes of the Department of Home Affairs portfolio, and then briefing by the Department of Home Affairs on the amendments to the one-stop border post, consideration and adoption of outstanding minutes, committee observation, and then that's all. These are the members who were in the meeting.
Thank you, members. These minutes have been. Any other comments on the minutes? Honorable Machi?
Thank you, Chairperson. I just raise my hands for the adoption of the minutes.
Okay. Is there any other matter to be raised? Honorable Machi, move for the adoption. Any seconder?
Thank you, Chair. I second.
Thank you, Honorable Mtolo. Any contrary view? Noted. So, members, all the minutes have been carried, and this reflects the meetings that we have been engaged on with the entities that reports we conduct oversight, and does reflect our conversation and the recommendations. What it means, Mr. Matonsi and Mr. Adams, that we request that all the recommendations that have been put on the minutes must be compiled so that we track the issues that we have resolved on against what the department is doing. It will assist us now that we're engaging with the provincial offices, the provincial leadership. We've started in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. And part of what we've recommended must then be reflected on the tracking process. Secondly, in the minutes there, one of the minutes reflect that CETA is engaged with the government printing works, and that part of the IT environment, we may need to flag it as part of the recommendation, including the Department of Home Affairs. In our minutes, we do reflect the concerns of the downtime of the department and the mechanism that they've briefed the committee as implementing the proposal that they revamp the entire system. So those are some of the issues that we request you to summarize them in terms of recommendations and send to members so that we track. That's why I initiated that we must start with the 5 set of minutes. So it's easy for the committee to track progress around that. Thanks very much, members. for all the items that we have been engaged on and the decision or recommendations that we have proposed. Is there any other matter, Mr. Matons, that you want to raise with the committee before we adjourn?
It's just that next week we do have 3 provinces, and also next week Tuesday, and also the Department of Public Works in terms of their comprehensive report on the offices of the Department of Home Affairs. That will be on Tuesday next week. But also I did speak to Chairperson about the meeting on the 13th of March regarding the briefing by the Department of Home Affairs and the SIU on their report, the interim report. I think that's basically it. And also that there was a WhatsApp message from Ms. Machi today to Chairperson regarding the start time of the meeting, especially the virtual meeting, from 9 o'clock to 9:30. I know she's in the meeting. I'm just raising it because she raised it on the group.
Okay. We'll deal with the matter of time scheduling. What would request that you need to check the time of the sittings, because on the last week when we were dealing with Limpopo and Mpumalanga, we ought to squeeze some of the questions. And we know that we resolved that the Deputy Director General, Mr. Mavoso, that some of the responses which were not responded, that he must reflect when we engage with in that meeting. So it's important that we don't lose that area. Secondly, when we meet with the SIU, we need counter-corruption unit within the department and the multidisciplinary team that must brief the committee. So it must only be that item, because there are many issues that are residing from that report, and members must interact with that report. So we need only full session with that with the item. The Public Works who agreed that they must brief the committee full report on the status and the plan for infrastructure in the department. We agreed, the committee then agreed about that, including the facility manager who was in the meeting, Mr. Ngasana, is also committed that will give a full report on the status of the department. So if you check the program, Mr. Matons, that we're convening next week, the items are such that we're unable to conclude them before 2 o'clock before sitting. So I request you that you check if we can get an extension for the meeting to go beyond the sitting, even if members join the sitting late. At least could have exhausted the matter. I know other members may have responsibilities in the sitting. We must need to check that part first, but given the item that you have now outlined on the meeting with the provincial structures, 3 of them, Public Works issues, and members have a fair opportunity to engage with the report with a clear recommendation. I think it's important we balance the time. But on the other matter of the interim report of the SIU, the multidisciplinary team, the anti-corrupt unit within the department, and this is a resolution of the committee that from time to time we must meet with the anti-corrupt unit. But I think this is a good opportunity that we meet with the 3 layers members. Lastly, that on our correspondences, there are issues which were raised in a previous meeting about correspondences we've received from members or any other member of the community which were noted in the meeting, we request that in our next meeting, we then, immediately after apologies, we get responses from the department around what are the issues they're dealing with in response to those issues. And I think it will assist us to fast track our engagement with the department and make sure that we thoroughly conduct our oversight. I'm sure with we've covered all the issues that we're supposed to cover, and members' issues that you have raised and recommended. Is there any other matter before we adjourn the meeting, members? Okay. Thanks very much. Our meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.